today's webinar. This is the 5th webinar in the series that we did for unisal, and today we are going to focus on the uStore. Myself, Konstantin Kerstner from Process Software, and I'm joined today by Roni Ram from IBM. If you're new to unisal, you can have a look at our previous webinars. You can find them on YouTube, and you can get there also via the universal.org homepage. And the first webinar is an introductional webinar which covers all the aspects of unisal in a compromised form, so that you can get up to speed on what is unisal all about. Today we are in the general introduction, and after this introduction, Roni will have a presentation about the uStore, and after that we will have a short time for discussions. You can ask any questions you want there, and we will try to do our best to answer them. For the materials again, our YouTube channel is called Project universAAL. You can find all the webinars, also including this one, after today. You find it there, and you can watch them as many times as you want if you didn't understand anything. On the website universal.org you get all the events and further information, also to our news sites, to Facebook, Twitter, the trainings that we offer, the meetings we are going to be, and these kind of things. If you like unisal and you would like to participate, you're also welcome to join the AALOA association. It's the AAL Open Association, which is promoted by the partners of the European Integrated Projects. Those have been Persona, for example, and universAAL, and they will be in charge of making sure the source code is maintained after the project ends. So if you into that, please check out aaloa.org as well. Okay, that's it from my side, and I would like to hand over to Roni, which will have a presentation about the uStore.
I cannot share my screen, Konstantin. Okay, I hope that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So my name is Roni Ram, and I'm from IBM Haifa Research Lab, and we are located in Haifa, Israel. Our lab is one of the industrial partners that are being involved in the unisal project. And unisal is a large-scale project that is being funded by the EU FP7 program. It was started in February 2010 and supposed to run until actually next month, January 2014. And my goal for today is to describe one of the components that we developed in the project, uStore. And for me, it is the most innovative component in the project. So first of all, I would like to explain the goal of unisal as a whole. The goal of unisal is to produce an open platform for the provisioning of AAL services and the reference specification for the AAL domain. And AAL stands for Ambient Assisted Living. unisal provides the technical infrastructure for the development of AAL services, which reduces cost of development. And in addition, it aims to reduce the cost of provisioning, making it cost-effective for AAL service providers, and this is achieved by uStore. The inspiration for the overall solution of unisal is coming from the mobile domain. We have a user who owns a mobile device, that some application platform is running on top of it. And then on the other hand, we have a developer site with development tools and an online shop that is the shop for all the applications that are available. And now the application developer develops an application for this mobile phone. And when the application is ready, he uploads it to the online shop. The user can then search the store and find the applications that he likes. He can download the applications directly to his mobile phone and start using them. So the one-stop online shop of universAAL is inspired by Apple's App Store. And this model is successful because, as you know, it is easy for the users to find applications that they like, to download, install, and pay for the applications. And on the other side, for the developers, it is a clear channel to the market. The concept of App Store is very simple. The application developers upload their applications to the store, while the end users can browse the store, select the applications that they like, pay for them, in case they are not offered as free, and then download and install them on their iPhone or iPad, which are both proprietary platforms. This approach was adopted by universAAL. We have an assisted person in his home, and some application platform is running there. On the other hand, we have a developer site with development tools again, and an online shop that is the shop for all the applications that are available. And now the AAL application developer develops applications for the AAL domain. And when the application is ready, the developer uploads the application to the online shop. And now comes the service provider. In case he thinks that an application can be useful to elderly people, he packages it as a service. This means that now the end users can buy a full package that includes the application with all the devices and the human resources that are needed. For example, a nurse that is coming once a day or once a week to monitor the health status of the person. And now, if an assisted person or one of his caregivers or relatives is interested in a solution that will help the person to remain at home, they can look for such a service in the online shop, and once they find such a solution and accept the license agreement, they can download the application directly to the platform that is already installed, and the devices will arrive later by mail, and the human resources will arrive at the times that they were scheduled in the agreement. And this is what universAAL is trying to achieve. Now, the goal of the talk today is the store, but in order to explain all the aspects of it, I think it's important to understand the role of the runtime platform. In the previous slide, I mentioned that an application platform is running at home. The approach of universAAL is that an instance of the universAAL runtime platform is running on top of every device at home, and they communicate one with each other. And this way it hides the complexity of the network from the applications that are running on top of that network. They run as all of them are in one device. So going back to the store. uStore is our app store for AAL services. In uStore, the developers upload services, as opposed to applications in App Store. And the users then browse the store, select the services that they are interested in, and pay for them. And then, instead of downloading and running it on iPhone or iPad, which is a proprietary platform, the service is downloaded and installed on top of the universAAL common platform. And given the approach of universAAL that I explained in the previous slide, to hide the details of the underlying operating systems, devices, protocols, and so on, adapters are being used for different types of devices. And the platform allows execution on a wide variety of different hardware and operating system execution platforms, such as mobile phones, PCs, laptops, and so on. And as a result, some services that are downloaded from uStore may be even distributed over several nodes. So the installation process is much more complicated than the one that App Store is doing. In this slide, I would just like to give you an indication on the number of health applications that are available today in App Store. As I explained, uStore is intended for full services and not just for standalone applications. But given this number and the innovation in this field in recent years, the need for such a store for AL services seems to be very clear. Now let's move forward, and I will explain the high-level architecture of uStore. So uStore is based on IBM Websphere Commerce product, which is a proprietary closed-source e-commerce solution of IBM. In order to support the use cases and the requirements of uStore, which are different from a regular and classic e-commerce solution, we extended the code of Websphere Commerce, and this code is released together with the other code developed in universAAL as open source under the Apache license. Since Websphere Commerce is intended primarily to sell static and tangible products and not software, we had to integrate a content management system to handle all the application's artifacts, including support of versioning control. So to be aligned with the project policy, we chose the open source Nexus server for that purpose. On the left side, you can see the different interfaces that uStore exposes to the end users. First of all, the administration console is being used by the store operator for administrative functions. The management center is being used by the content providers, which are the AAL developers and the service providers, and this tool is used for managing the catalog of uStore. And the last one is the store itself, that is being used by all the stakeholders, not only for searching and acquiring services, but also for all the social interactions among them. On the right side, you can see the interfaces that uStore has with the other universal components. The first one is the AAL Studio with the conformance tools that are available there. The idea is that the developers can upload the applications that they develop directly from their development environment, the AAL Studio, to uStore without using the Management Center tool. And the second one is the interface that uStore has with the Universal Runtime Platform, and this goes in two directions. The first one is for the deployment of services into the runtime platform, for installations, update, and uninstallation of services. And the second one is for offering personalized services in the store to the end users based on their profile and their local environment, which are stored in the runtime platform at home. Now we will go into more details, the flow of actions. So you can see the different blocks of the universal platform. Block 1 is the runtime platform that is running at the assisted person home and is intended for the end users. Block 2 is the uStore, and as I explained before, mainly intended for the end users and the service providers. And Block 3 includes the development tools, mainly the developer depot and the AAL Studio, that are intended to be used by the AAL developers. The developer depot is the first entry point to universAAL. You can find all the information that you need there, and then you can start developing applications with the AAL Studio. When the application is ready, the developer uploads it as a UART file into the catalog of uStore. It is still not exposed to the end users. There are two ways to achieve that. The first one is through the Management Center user interface, and the second one is by a built-in wizard in the AAL Studio that interacts with uStore. The UART file contains all the information on the application, metadata that describes it, the application license, some deployment information, and so on. The next step is done by the service provider. He adds to uStore the hardware items and the human resources that are needed for a complete service. And then he packages all the items together and offers it to the end users. From the end user's perspective, the first step is to download the Universal Runtime Platform and install it by following the instructions in uStore. The Runtime Platform, with all its inner components, as you can see now in Block 1, is then installed at the end user local environment. The runtime platform is not a service in uStore that has to be purchased. It is a prerequisite that everyone can just go and download it. You don't even need to sign in for that. Then in order to purchase services in uStore, the end user needs to sign in. We need to know who is the user. And then the purchase process with all the steps, add to the shopping cart, providing the shipping address if hardware items are included, some billing information, and so on. And once the order of the service is in place and the payment is approved, the service is available for download and installation. You can simply download it to your local file system, or better install it into the Universal Runtime Platform with the UCC tool. The UCC is part of the Universal Runtime Platform, and you can see that as a result, the service that the user has purchased was installed in the local environment. And now the end user is using the service, which as a result operate different functions that are available in the runtime platform. And now the end user can rate the service in uStore, so other users know its feedback. This information is also useful for the service providers in order to understand the market needs. And finally, to close this loop of the universal service lifecycle, there is a support to update applications available in uStore with new versions, bug fixes, or even mark application as temporarily not available. The service provider can maintain the services available in uStore with new versions of the applications, new hardware devices, and so on. And obviously, all of this can be updated in the runtime platform as well. And now I would like to present a short movie that we produced in IBM that highlights the benefits of uStore.
As the average life expectancy gets longer all the time, more elderly people depend on different services to help them live independently with a good quality of life. These new and innovative offerings for ambient assisted living can help the elderly remain at home on their own for a longer time. These services help senior citizens live a vital and independent lifestyle. They provide many solutions for disease management and offer support for daily activities, wellness, and social interactions. Until now, however, there has not been an economically viable marketplace where people could browse, purchase, or offer services for ambient assisted living, or AAL. In response to this situation, the European research project universAAL has created the uStore, a one-stop online shop for AAL services. Inspired by Apple's App Store concept, uStore is an e-commerce platform developed on top of the IBM Websphere commerce products. The platform is customized for the unique requirements of the elderly and helps people publish, purchase, and deploy AAL services. In this new environment, service creators, the elderly, and their families can share ideas, ask for new services, get help, and provide feedback. Let's see an example of how uStore can help senior citizens and their families. This is Suzanne. Now 70, she has lived alone for several years. She has always been completely independent, but she was just discharged from the hospital after surgery and feels insecure about being alone in her home. Her daughter Mary suggests searching the internet for possible solutions. She finds the uStore site and very easily becomes involved in the ongoing community discussions. She then decides to share her concerns with the uStore online community. Mary explains that her mother is looking for a solution that could notify someone in the event of an emergency and ensure that someone is sent to help. After a few minutes, Mary gets a response to her post with a link to the Check for You service. The service includes home sensors, medical devices, and weekly nurse visits. Mary searches for reviews of the service and decides to subscribe to the Check for You service for a 6-month period based on the positive feedback she sees from other subscribers. The service sounds like a good solution to her mother's sense of insecurity. When placing the order, Mary specifically asks to be contacted by the service operator since she does not feel comfortable with installing the service by herself at her mother's house. A representative of InnovIT, the company that provides the Check for You service, contacts Mary and schedules the installation. Once installed, Suzanne enjoys the Check For You service and especially the weekly visits of the friendly nurse. The service helps her maintain an active and independent lifestyle while feeling safe and secure. Mary then adds another positive review to the Check For You service in uStore and decides to extend her subscription period to the service. Now let's see how uStore can help service providers. The City of Betterville wants to promote its services for the elderly in a cost-effective manner. The city offers a wide variety of services that provide better care for senior citizens at home, and it also wants to encourage service providers to develop and offer more solutions. They decide to use uStore as their provisioning platform. InnovIT has an agreement with the city to publish their services in uStore. With a single platform for AAL services, InnovIT gets a lot of exposure for their services. The company monitors the discussions taking place in the uStore community to learn about new trends, missing features, and requested improvements. Based on that, they develop a new service and easily define it in the collection on uStore by packaging all the necessary components together: software, hardware, and human resources. As a new offering, they decide to promote it by giving a significant discount for the first year. As a personalized store for the aging population, uStore can help speed the adoption and distribution of AAL services offered by governments, insurance companies, or healthcare providers, making it simpler and more affordable for service providers to publish their services, and making it easier for end users to get and install the services they're looking for. For more information on uStore, contact us at IBM Research.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So I hope you enjoyed the movie. And now I'm going to show you some screenshots of uStore for the action that I've just described in the service lifecycle flow. The first one is for uploading an AAL application from the development environment, the AAL Studio, to uStore. You can see in the menu the actions that are available. If you choose to publish your application to uStore, then you will be asked to provide information on this application version and the category in uStore to put in. And then some additional information like images that will be displayed with this application in the uStore catalog. And finally, you can see that the application was added to the uStore catalog, and this is how it is being seen in the Management Center tool. This is a screenshot that shows all the universal platforms that are available for download from uStore. You just need to click on the download link of the version that you want. And in the description tab, there are all the instructions that you need for the installation of the platform. As I mentioned before, the products that we sell in uStore are AAL services, which are composition of software, hardware, and human resources. As you can see in this screenshot, the HWO service, the Help When Outdoor service, is a composition of the Help When Outdoor application, Galaxy tablet, which is the mobile device that the application is running on top of it, and the nurse that is coming X times a week to check the person at his home. And this is how it is defined in the Management Center tool of uStore, the tool that is being used for managing the catalog. In this screenshot, you can see some of the parameters that define the nurse, how often she is going to visit the person, the experience that she has, and so on. And this screenshot shows you how the service looks like in the store itself by the end users. In this case, this is the Check For You service. Okay, and now the service lifecycle includes, first of all, the installation of the service into the local universal runtime platform. Once the order of the service is approved, there are two icons that you can use. One for downloading the service file into your local file system, and the second one is for installing it. When you click on the install icon, the UCC tool is opened, and you have to approve the installation. And once the service is installed, there are two additional icons that are available. One for updates, in case a new version of the service is available in the uStore catalog, and the second one is for the removal of the service from the local runtime platform. Okay, and some additional screenshots that I would like to show you are for the social interactions among all the involved stakeholders, elderly people with their caregivers, service providers, developers, and so on. So this is a request posted by a caregiver, and he is looking for a tracking service for his dad. And then a response is coming in from a service provider offering a specific service. The blog widget can be used also for sharing new ideas for services or getting help, and so on. Another widget is for rating the service. The users of a service can provide their honest opinion on the service, and this will be shared with the community and can help other people to decide whether this service is really useful or not. And finally, you can even share your feedback to your social networks like Facebook and Twitter. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about the evaluations of uStore that we did and do in universAAL. The first one was the evaluation of the uStore scenarios. Scenarios are short descriptions that are based on real examples, which demonstrate the different functions of uStore. They are written in a non-technical language. The evaluation was an external one, with 1 to 10 participants per scenario from Austria, Denmark, and Spain. We had 2 iterations for this evaluation. The first one was 2 years ago, and based on the feedback, the scenarios were updated, and the second evaluation happened almost a year after that. And the findings of this evaluation are that the uStore is mentioned to be a good place for searching and providing AAL services, especially with the included features for rating and commenting. The second evaluation is the uStore usability. And this evaluation is done internally in 5 living labs that are represented by the universAAL partner. These living labs are in Austria, Greece, Germany, and 2 in Spain. We had the first iteration of this evaluation more than a year ago, and the feedback was that there is a need for revising the installation process and the documentation, since it will be the #1 way of installation in the future. The second iteration happens just now, and I hope the feedback will be better this time. Okay, and the last evaluation is again the uStore usability, but this time with external users, whether living in real homes or visiting the living labs that we install universAAL there. There are the same living labs with 10 real homes in Austria and Spain. And the evaluation is happening now, so we don't have any final results yet. So to summarize the talk, uStore is the meeting place of all the involved stakeholders. The service providers who want to promote a service or a technology, the developers who want to develop new technological solutions, the end users who look for technology to make their life easier, and the authorities who want to offer better care to their senior citizens. And uStore is a platform that brings them all together. You can find additional information on the project and on uStore in this website, and the contact details are also available there. And thank you. And now we can go forward to the discussion.
Yes, I would like to ask you, first of all, thank you, Roni, for this really good presentation. I would like to ask you to post your questions in the chat so that we can address them, probably, if you have some. While you're posting your questions, I can tell you that the next webinar we are going to have is on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, it's going to be the concrete architecture again. And on Friday, we will have the last webinar, which is concerned about or will be about the communities that universAAL addresses. So there's a question related to security and privacy. The question is, how does the uStore deal with verification of uploaded apps?
Then I mentioned at some point during the presentation that there is a connection between the AL Studio, which is the there is a connection between the AL Studio and uStore. The AL Studio is the the AL Studio is the development environment, and we integrated some conformance tools there, actually more for validating that the application is trusted enough and can be uploaded to uStore. So less in the concept of sensitive data, but more on the concept of that it will not harm the system at home. So this is one connection that we have, and we can test the applications before they are uploaded to uStore. In uStore itself, currently there isn't any mechanism to test the services, but in parallel to the uStore activity, there are other activity in universAAL to make some certification process more on standardization efforts in order to define what exactly should be the policy that will be that can be integrated into uStore to check the correctness of the applications, of the services. About specific services that could deal with sensitive data, then it's more up to the service provider itself to define what exactly the policy in the service itself. So this can be defined in the agreement between the service provider and the end user who purchased the service, what exactly the policy will be, how the service will deal with sensitive data. I hope it is more clear now.
The question is very interested in the ontologies used by universAAL. On the next webinar, we already had the webinar for the concrete architecture. The next webinar will be the same webinar, but the concrete architecture, and we will also talk about the ontologies there, so a little bit. So if you would like to know more, then please join also the other webinar on Wednesday.
Okay, and now to Vanelline's question about the city government who is using uStore. Then in this case, it could be the city that owns the uStore and makes agreement with service providers to publish their services in uStore. This is the concept that I had in mind for this case, for this use case. But you can have many business models for uStore. Who is the entity that operates it, and who are the entities that provide the content to the store. Again, Vanelline, to your question, in this model that is described in the movie, it's the city that owns the store and responsible for the operation of the store. But the content is based on agreements that are being done with other service providers.
So the question is, I just repeated for the people listening, another question is about the strategy to charge for services. You mentioned that once you select and pay for the service, there's a process until the service package is delivered. As you know, there's no universal sensor setup that fits every home.
Okay, so this is a tricky question. The goal of the universal runtime platform is to be open to support any protocol or any sensor in a plug-and-play mode. So it will be, and it aims to be a very an easy process for the installation. But as we know, as the service is more complex, this may not be the case. So in case the service is simple enough with not too many hardware devices and so on, then it could be that the end user, the old person or one of his caregivers, can do the installation by themselves. But if this is not the case, then it could be part of the agreement between the end user and the service provider that the installation of the service is part of this agreement, and an operator will come to the house and will take care of all the installation that is needed. And this will be done only after the agreement has been signed between the sides, and the payment was approved, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, actually, the question is about the cost and maybe the pricing of the service. Yeah, it's not clear, and there could be different business model for a service. For example, you can pay a fixed price for a service, or you can pay, or you can subscribe to a service for a specific period of time, or maybe it could be per use. So it's not easy, and it could be per service to decide what is the best business models for the service provider to support it. Yeah, it could be that the most attractive model will be subscription for services. Yeah, I assume that's correct. Yeah, the idea is that during the subscription time, there is a relationship between the end user and the service provider, and the service provider is responsible for all the maintenance and the operation of the service. And the idea is that it's currently not supported, but the idea is that uStore can be the platform to do this monitoring of the services. So the service provider is able to know the status of the services, whether they are only installed but not running, or running, and for how long they are running at the local environment. So based on that, the service provider can offer help for the end users. These questions, and we had many discussions during this 4 years project about all of these tricky questions. It's good that we know them and we have to deal with them, but yeah, not all of them. We didn't deal with many of them in the scope of the universal project, but we know that if there will be commercial solution that is based on uStore, then yeah, for sure, all of these tricky questions have to be answered. What is next? I can say that from IBM point of view, we are, first of all, we have two directions. The first one is to try to contribute all the extensions that we head for Websphere commerce into the product itself in order to create a new market for Websphere commerce. If it's originally targeted for a static product, then now it can deal with services, not just AL services, but actually any smart services at home. And the other direction is to find some business opportunity in this domain, like city or regional entities that are interested in operating such a store and maintain services for their senior citizens and so on. So these are two directions that we're trying to push in IBM.
Maybe here's a good point to ask you if you would like to contribute. You can always go to the AALOA website, aaloa.org, and get involved in development. The source code of the Universal Runtime Platform is also maintained there.
The code of uStore that we developed on top of Websphere Commerce is also available there. I can say that the runtime platform was started as a middleware, but the goal of Universal, actually, I think that their goal was to not necessarily integrate third-party products, but to take care of all the life cycle of the services. And, in order to save resources, we decided to base our solution on some third-party products. But it could be other products. There isn't any strong dependency between the product that we chose to base our solution on top of it and the solution itself. So you can, it's all documented, and actually you can take other products and base the solution on top of them.
Yeah, and to be honest, this whole complex of Universal is quite challenging from a technical point of view. So having third parties working with their products there reduces the risk of failing. So I think that's also quite helpful.